would I spread my bed? Where would I lay my head? Nobody know, nobody know. If I ever had to leave me home, no other place I ever roam could be like Belize, be like Belize. Sweet Belize, land of the sand and sea, land of the coconut tree. I love me sweet Belize, sweet Belize, land of the isles and keys, land of the barrier reef. I love me sweet Belize. Creole and Garifuna, Mestizo and Maya, living in peace. Sweet Belize, land of the sand and sea, land of the coconut tree. I love me sweet Belize, sweet Belize, land of the isles and keys, land of the barrier reef. I love me sweet Belize. If I ever had to leave Belize, if I ever had to leave Belize, where would I go? Where would I go? Where would I spread my bed? Where would I lay my head? Nobody know, nobody know. If I ever had to leave my home, no other place I ever roam could be like Belize, be like Belize. Sweet Belize, land of the sand and sea, land of the coconut tree. I love me sweet Belize.
Welcome back to our second segment.
Sweet
It is a beautiful day,
Belize,
February
land
the
of the isles
13th.
and keys.
And we had a wonderful first segment. We're now moving into our second segment. We have said that we have guests for the entire show this morning. But Scott, that was definitely a very encouraging segment there. That the language is being
very, very good.
codified, placed in books to ensure that future generations can
So it
speak
can
and learn
multiply,
English.
right? And so it's
Creole.
like what it talks about in the Bible, write the vision so that others may run, right? And so I'm so proud of that team, and I'm particularly, the primary drivers I think have been those ladies.
Yes, those
and,
ladies right there.
and if they didn't step forward and push that button, nothing would have happened. So anyways, I'm super, super happy about that.
Yeah. On the PCC, the People's Constitution Commission, there are also representatives at the Creole, National Creole Council that are present as we review the Constitution. We have Commissioner Kemp and also Commissioner Adela, one from Bangopan, one from Belize City, who played that particular role. I don't know if we are going to Constitution in a Creole, but we know that when it come close to the time when Belizeans decide how their government is going to go.
If we go there, we'll need a next dictionary with a whole lot more words in there, right?
Yeah. So earlier this week, I think it was Monday, the Prime Minister did a press conference in which he said that the date for election have been set as March the 12th, March the 12th, 24th of February, nomination day. And so he has asked the Governor General to dissolve the Parliament. Now it means that I think Cabinet still remains, because the executive must still do its job. And so we are definitely moving into the political season. Our guests not only come when political season, I need to say that we never say a long time, but then not just political season brings him around. So we are glad to have with us Honorable Rodwell Ferguson. He's the area representative of Stan Creek West, Belize's largest constituency, probably most diverse as well. He's also the Minister of Youth, Sports and Transport. Welcome back,
Thank
Minister.
you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
The first one in line, right, Louis?
You look like you wear a uniform too. You have a you have a uniform for yourself. Well, the whistle has blown. It's been almost 5 years. And whenever we talk about constituencies, there was a conversation last week again about the constituencies and their size. We always mention Stan Creek West, so you're always close to our heart. I was down south just a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that the Southern Highway is beginning to get a major facelift. So certainly work has been done, but you are in that constituency far more than I am. What's happening in your constituency,
Well,
Minister?
yes, Louis, the Southern Highway has been paved, and it's been done by the Ministry of Infrastructure using hot mix. It is the first time in the South that we have seen a hot mix pavement, and the people are very elated and they're happy that the improvement has started. Because that highway was paved, I believe, in 1999 for the first time, and it lasted almost, I believe, 24, 25 years. And now, with the constant rain, then there's a constant breakup. So for the last 8 months, when the rain started around June, July, you see the potholes getting bigger and bigger. And so the Minister of Infrastructure decided, you know what, we are going to invest in the first phase, from the 6 Miles Junction to Kendall Bridge. And then the second phase will be from Kendall Bridge to Placentia Junction. And the third phase from Placentia Junction to Independence. But I must say that the portion from the Independence Junction to PG is still in much favorable shape.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's going on.
Good.
Yep.
The hot mix comes nice and smooth, right?
It's a beautiful ride.
Yes.
You
Quiet ride
You
too.
don't need a shocks in your vehicle when you're not piece of highway.
Yeah.
Pretty smooth.
My favorite kind of road as well too. So I was very impressed to see that a very long. I mean, my favorite piece I normally talk about outside of Ladyville. One small stretch outside of Ladyville, but now there I see miles of it, and it's very impressive. And I look forward to the entire highway being paved. Now, is that being done through budget, or is there international funding, or
No, it was. I think initially it was done through the budget, because it was not to seek international funding, because when they get into office, it was merely practically good. But when the minister recognized that it is breaking up, then he had to use the budget funds to make sure he do the first portion. And then I think in December, when there was he requested additional funds to at least go to Placentia as quickly as possible to Placentia Junction.
Well,
Very good.
That is good, Scott, because a lot of highways are done with international aid, so this is like actually coming from the budget.
That's good.
Now, what are some of the other areas that you have been able to bring development? We know, for example, that the banana industry appears to continues to do very well. But I have not seen where the citrus industry, which is more part of where you area, I see the attempts at coconut and so on. How are the people doing, or what other projects have you been able to bring to the community?
Well, Louis, I noticed citrus is on a constant decline. And I grew up in the citrus belt. I born and raised and live in Pomona Village. And my first employment was with the Belize Food Products Limited, which was one of the citrus companies back then. And I worked with them for 13 years. And then I moved on to work with Patrick Pollock as an accountant at the time. And so I spent another 10 years with him. And then after that, I diverted into politics. But I can recall back in the glory days of citrus, when you pass Alta Vista and Pomona, the trucks will line up on the highway because there were so many trucks at the same time. And the factories will work 24/7. I can remember when Mr. Jenkins said that the citrus has peaked at 8 million boxes, I believe, around maybe the early 90s. And then after that, there was a steady decline. And it reached a point that I think last year it was less than 1 million boxes. As a matter of fact, I don't see any grapefruit. And grapefruit was like a part of the product. And in the early days, they used to do section, and then you put it in can, and then they used to call trout hull, and they ship it to Europe. But those things are basically not existent anymore. And even the employment factor, thank God Stan Creek has moved on to tourism.
Okay.
And so most of the employees work in the tourism industry at Hopkins in particular, and likewise the Placentia Peninsula. I was in San Roman Village last night, and I was very proud to see that almost 100% of them are employed. So the unemployment in Stann Creek has become dramatically low, maybe at 3.5% of the Prime Minister always talk about, because of the rise in tourism. And we hope that we can, at least for our CPBL, can diversify to some other crop. Because there's a huge amount of land, and I know they are diverting the coconut. Mr. Sabana always thought that they are putting up a coconut factory at CPBL. So I hope that the farmers can decide to divert. But there are basically no more small farmers in Stann Creek. There are mostly a few large farmers, and if you pass through there, you don't smell the blossom anymore.
Yes.
Because there's basically no oranges on the trees. So that by itself is a detriment, and I hope that we can find a solution to it.
And is this largely from the greening, the citrus greening, that, or what are the other factors that are affecting that?
The main factor was the citrus greening, and then from there you see a steady decline because the small farmers couldn't maintain their farm because it needed other input. And so as the trees started to decay, then they just abandoned the farm. But some big farmers stayed in. As a matter of fact, H.T. Bowman, may he rest in peace, Mr. William Bowman, is defunct. They are no longer functional.
The entire company
has been closed down.
Yeah. And we've seen now where citrus orchards have turned into cornfields as well. People have switched over completely, abandoned their crop and gone over to something else, you know.
So what they do, they rent their land, I guess, to those from Spanish lookouts, and then they go into farm fields. It might be beneficial for them and may make more money.
And then some go to coconuts, like you were mentioning, right? And so, yeah, it's taking a hit.
Exactly. But I want to mention Silgrass Farms, run by Mr. Henry Canton, Dr. Canton. That was the year I worked for 10 years with Pollock. Calaland was originally from Mr. Pollock.
With citrus at that time?
Had citrus at the time, and they were also diverted to pineapple. So when Mr. Canton came in as the manager of that farm, you could say they renovated the whole area. It's about 21,000 acres. But they're also trying to conserve. So what they do, they make sure that nothing has been done on a portion of the land as a conservation process, but they are now having a processing plant where they are doing oranges, grapefruit, watermelon, pineapple, almost everything. So right now they are the biggest farming employer in the Stann Creek district.
All right.
Yeah.
So in essence, the traditional processing businesses that we know were, if I could say as a old man told you, Salada, Pomona, essentially it's moved to Silgrass. So I guess it's smaller, but it's doing a wider variety. It's variety, and now that is becoming the biggest processing, or at least the employer in the agri industry.
So for the valley to Silgrass Farms is taking up the majority of employment. And so at one time, Silgrass was a very dismal village. But now that in Silgrass has now elevated and people are working. In terms of the banana, while it may not be as good as it is, but it's maintained itself and sustained itself. But I know there is some decline in production. And then shrimps by itself, they was one of the highest export earner, maybe in the late 90s. Yes. But you know they are suffering from a disease for the last 20 years, and so there was a steady decline in shrimps. They are doing their best to try to return it back to normalcy. They are making smaller ponds because they realize that the bigger pond is what caused the disease with so many shrimps in one pond.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that they can find a solution.
So let's talk a little bit about the tourism. We know Mango Creek has been the largest constituency, the largest village in your constituency. So now I guess Silgrass now is it number 2?
I would say Mango Creek would be number 1.
Yes.
Then Placenta would be number 2, and then Silgrass combined Hopkins should be number 3.
Okay. Now the tourism is more, well, no, you do have Hopkins and Placencia, as it relates to, but you have places like Bokawina and is it Bokawina that is named?
Bokawina
Like,
National Park area,
yeah,
but it might not be as big as what is happening in Hopkins. It's a reserve maybe isolated by itself.
okay, so it's the coastal tourism that is really pushing
the area in terms of employment and activities.
Okay, so the reason why I asked about the agriculture and the tourism was because I wanted to know how are the people doing. Like if you remove citrus, which was a primary income earner for the people there, their whole life in a sense was based around either banana or citrus, at least 2 decades ago. And if you are making those dramatic changes or the dramatic decline, how are the people making their livelihood? Is the standard of living of people within your constituency improving, or is it stagnant because you're replacing, or is it getting better?
I think it's getting better because Tank Valley, as I said, was the heart of the citrus industry, and now they have to seek employment in the Angrigaton or Hopkins or Silvergrass farms. So I can tell you that Silvergrass farms employed more than 50% of the people who used to be at CPBL and BFP. So they are still working and they are transported to work on a daily basis. So the area, I can tell you, is doing extremely well. I could say from Silvergrass to Independence, almost maybe 90% is employed.
Yes.
And then likewise, the valley now they are diverted into tourism and they are going to Silvergrass farm. So far we are doing basically okay.
All right. Now you've also been responsible as a senior member of cabinet. You were assigned the portfolios of youth sports and transport. There appears to be a very big revolution in the area of transport because, well, we know Floralia is, like there's an upgrade. I don't know, the Prime Minister is talking about Trendmaya. We'll have sometime, talk to us a little bit about that part. I know that is not just Sand Creek West, that is a national issue. How are we doing in that area?
Well, I think, first of all, when I was given the responsibility for transportation, it's a very difficult department because you deal with the public on a daily basis. And so as something goes wrong, then they will go public. And I recognize the deficiencies in the ministry or in the department, and I tried for 4 years to make a difference. But I can tell you it's very tough, it's very difficult. So first of all, I brought in Florida Boss. They said, own it, I have shares, I don't have any, I can sell to the public, and I can check anywhere in the world to see if I'm a member or shareholder of Florida. And I want to set a precedence and let the other operators recognize that this is the direction you want to go.
Yes, quality-wise.
Quality-wise. And so back then, I gave them a moratorium that I want to see that you improve your buses over a period of time. And most of the operators are small operators. But some of them may have 1 bus or 2 buses, and they appeal to me and say, Minister, give us an extension to see if we can meet the standard that you want. But just to bring a Florella bus in the country, I believe, it costs those investors, I believe, over $300 million, $20,000. And so they brought in about 6 or 7. So the operators are saying, how can we afford to go to an institution and borrow $300,000 and then we are charging the commuter X amount? And so they were reluctant to improve the quality of their buses. But I can see as I speak, we want to have a bus show maybe within 2 weeks, district-wide. And we want to show the nation how many buses or companies have improved their quality of buses. Because we ask them that highway buses must have air condition, must have bucket seats, make sure that the passenger seating is comfortable, and so when the commuter rides, it's a comfortable ride. So after we do that bus show, maybe 2 weeks from now, then I will say what and who has upgraded. while some remain the same, but they understand that they must reach the standard. So what we did, I think, in early 2023, we put the deadline to December 31st, 2024, to improve your quality of bus. Not say I will buy a brand new bus, but at least fix up your seats, make sure you got better, you got air conditioning on the highway, make sure you have all your tires in shape and so forth. So all permits expired on December 31st, 2024. I'm going to give you a temporary permit from January to March 2025.
Oh boy.
So we are going to now do the inspection between this period. I'm going to tell you if your bus has meet the standard that we want in the country of Belize.
Right. So essentially, that are multiple extensions in a sense, because you gave your first deadline, you've moved it to 2024, and then even at the end of that, this little 3-month period is even additional. But you are seeing improvement in the standard.
In the standard, there's a lot of improvement, and Scott on the way.
And no protest. I'm not hearing any public protest in the
I was just going to mention about that.
The water is calm out here.
It's calm. Let me tell you what. Because I'm a hands-on minister, whenever they request a meeting with me, I make myself available. So I had the last meeting with them about 3 weeks ago. And I said, Minister, you are the only and the first minister always have an audience with us. And we come to terms, and we come to understanding, and we appreciate that. So there is no rumors that there is a strike. Everybody is trying to meet the deadline.
Yeah, you've done a wonderful job in connecting with them, and so I think the most important thing is people need to know that the leaders care, and I think you've helped to be able to bridge that gap. So.
Exactly. So far, everything is perfectly with myself and them, and they said, Mr. Minister, you did an excellent job to work with us, and we'll try and understand each other.
Yes.
Very good.
Because it has, in the past, it has created tremendous tumult, either from the passenger side who are certain things, from the owner's side, and so on. So
what I do, gentlemen,
yes.
I do not the transport board. I do not interfere with the work of a transport board. If you apply for a bus run, you go to the board will decide if you should get a run based on what they have done to see if it is adequate. They do their job. As a minister, I don't interfere.
No, so the first thing that was done too is to set a standard, because Florella does set a standard, and then everybody can move towards that standard, and then deadlines. Now, this show that you are going to are preparing for the next couple of weeks, it will be done across the nation, or how is it going to be done?
So we will do it across the nation from PG to Corozal. Okay, it's difficult for everybody to bring their buses and visit for argument's sake. So we'll have correspondence, I guess, in every district to show us what has been done in Punta Gorda. Dangriga and Punta Gorda is a combination because James won in both municipalities. And then in Orange Walk, Corozal, Belize City, Cayo. And to buy a school bus, gentlemen, I use retired school bus to land in Belize about $30,000. And so they are used to that, that I can bring a $30,000 bus and I charge a commuter X amount. But one of their biggest complaints is the price of fuel. They are saying then, if you want me to improve my quality, and then I'm bagged with the price of fuel, then it is difficult for me to do what you want us to accomplish. And they are very used to have this small company, and they work on a daily basis. I make so much for today. This is my expenses. This is my profit for today, or maybe a loss.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
It's a tough situation.
And so
I have to be very considerate as a minister after I understand their plight.
So what prices did you find when you came in, and where are the prices now? What?
Government set the standard for prices. I think it's 14 cents a mile on paved road and 16 cents a mile on rough road. So everybody should have the same prices to make sure that there is no confusion when it comes to prices. But I believe, to be honest, but we are in a country where inflation is high, not only in Belize, around the world. And then imagine I'm traveling from Dangriga to Belmopan every day, and you increase the price by 20% on me. Already, my salary is not significant, but I have to come to work to Belmopan from Dangriga. Then we have to figure out how we can make a balance. I know the operators are agitating for a subsidy from government, but I don't think government is in a position to do it at this time. Because many
I guess their argument is we are the public transport.
The public transport.
We, the private owners, are public transport. So we want some subsidy from the government. Yes.
And it has been done in many countries in the region. But remember, we are a very small country. The last census says 397,000 people. We will live from Corozal to PG, from Benque to San Pedro. So we scatter all over this place. And I always compare Belize with Barbados. We have almost the same GDP, almost the same population, but they are a small island, so when they do a development, it benefits the entire island. So because of how we live far from each other, it is difficult for government to sustain and maintain all the development in one. That's the problem. I mean, imagine if a budget of $1.5 billion to sustain 8,867 square miles of land. It's rough.
Now, let's talk about the upcoming elections, if that is okay.
If I may go to sports.
Oh, you want to go to sports first?
Yeah, first.
All right.
Now for sports.
Again, the budget is being shared between X amount of ministries. And we all know education is number one because we are trying
That's
to.
the largest budget.
The largest budget is 27% of the budget. And so it's the largest budget, and it is important to improve the education standard of our children. And so everybody have to agree that education must be first. And so, over the last 2.5 years, government is trending towards free education, followed by itself the additional for the education budget. And so far, I could say maybe 60–65% of the high schools are practically free. In my own constituency, I have 5 high schools. And so far, the Little Academy is free, and Agricultural College is free, and Georgetown Technical High School is free. So in Stan Creek, the only 2 high schools that is left is Independence High School and Ecumenical High School. I believe as we prolong, those will also become free. And the other aspect of the budget is the Ministry of Health, because we have to try to take care of our people. If you notice, over the last 2 years again, the Cabinet decided, based on the Ministry of Finance request, that we will take away all the costs going to a hospital in the regions. So for example, in the past when a pregnant woman goes to the hospital and they have a baby, they can't afford to pay the hospital bill. So then that baby suffers because they can't get the proof of birth. So many people in this country don't have a birth paper because in the past, the mother couldn't pay the hospital bill. Now that has been released. So as you born a baby, you can get a proof of birth because there is no hospital bill. When there is a death, then you want to take your family out of the morgue because there is a morgue fee. No, there is no morgue fee. So that will give the Belizean people a relief. If you notice that the Carluccia Memorial Hospital, government write off $54 million between 2009 and 2022. There were Belizeans who made commitment to pay these bills. So it is documented, and so at least they go pay $50 a month, they pay. But so far we have done tremendously well to try to reach out to the population. And they expect more. But with a budget of $1.5 billion, it is almost impossible.
Yeah, so those have been, in a sense, the largest priorities: health and education.
Then infrastructure.
Yes. So what you're also saying though is that sports is not at the top of the list, but what have you been able to do? Hey, sports and youth are not at the top of the list.
Well, yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100%. But what I did, I again developed a relationship with all the federations. And I explained to them that the budget for sports at this particular juncture is very, very limited. And we try to figure out how we can assist them as much as we can with the limited resources. So when teams are traveling, they expect that the Ministry of Sports should give a contribution. And when they go and do extremely well, then we are all of us mechanized and say, oh, they came back, we are happy because our Belizean team did well. So when we were hosting under 17 basketball, I believe in 2023, they had a budget of over $200,000 to host the region. And they knocked on my door as the Minister of Sports. I said, but we don't have that money to give to you. So I appealed to the Prime Minister. I said, PM, this is exactly what is happening, that we are hosting under 17 basketball in Belize. I think we came in fourth. I went to play in Brazil. And so the Prime Minister arranged a meeting with the 3 utility companies, that are BTL, BL, and BWS. And so we had a meeting with them, and all 3 agreed to make a contribution, plus government contribution, plus a contribution from BTB, to make sure we were able to assist them to host the under-17 basketball competition. That year again, we also host Kodikadere Games, so that by itself an expense. So I had to appeal to Cabinet and to the Financial Secretary for contribution to host these events. And so far, everything went extremely well. So after engagement with the utility companies, BWS is the only utility company decided that they have put a budget put a figure in their budget for sports.
Wow. Yes.
So they put about $150,000. And so whenever a team goes, I'll write the chairman and say, can you contribute 10,000 to this team or 15,000 to this team? And I already have the budget, so he make the contribution. At the end of the financial year, then that money is gone. And so what we have an arrangement that when the financial year is over and we have money in the account, then we find a project to take on. So last financial year, the chairman said, Minister, how can we fix the Andres campus auditorium in Corozal? So I told the chairman I have no objection, and right now, if you see recently, the Andres campus auditorium in Corozal has been renovated. And this year, as the budget winds down, there's also a figure in there. So I told the chairman, you know what, let us look at 5 Southside constituency to do some small projects in their constituency. So right now as we speak, those constituencies are at least fixing up their basketball court or their football field, but 5 Southside constituency is getting that assistance right now. So we try to manage the money properly and see how that can benefit the Belizean people. If you notice, about 8 months ago, I came up with an initiative, and I still want to pursue it, to launch an app to raise money for sports. And yes, support sportsbizio.com, something like that. And we launched it on Love FM maybe June of last year, but there were some glitches, so we put it back. So hopefully, if I remain the Minister of Sports, I want to pursue it, and we're asking each Belizean to contribute at least $1 a month to be able to contribute back to sports. Because sports should be an industry by itself. And I know it's the most common in the world, sports don't have direct ministry. It's a subsidy, and they have their board.
Like a statutory
body.
Yes.
I have their board, and their purpose of that was to raise funds to support sports. But because our country is so small, and there's a decline of Belizeans going to sporting activities, so while we manage the stadiums, the amount of who goes to a game now is very limited. So the stadium can't even sustain themselves. And we see the thing with the Marion Jones, the Mexico Center, it was destroyed by Hurricane Lisa, I believe, in 2023. And the entire roof has practically gone. But I'm hopeful that this financial year, we should be able to fix the Mexico Center. But we had an agreement in Mexico, because it's a Mexico Center, and the building was still not handed over to Belize. And so we are hopeful that we can go back to Mexico and ask them to assist in the Mexico Center. As a matter of fact, we went there about 2.5 years ago, and they made the commitment. So I'm hopeful if I can speak with them again, then we can get them contribute to the Mexico Center.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy ministry. All the departments deal with the public. And so I will always get a black eye because the book stuck with me.
Yes.
And I said, but Minister, this is not being done. But then I understand the consequences and what I need to do to make sure the ministry shines. So far, youth is doing the best out of the 3 departments. They held activities across the country. We opened youth centers in several parts of the country, and the young people are now gravitating towards that. Every year we have an on-the-job training program. It just finished, and we are doing graduation now and giving us certificate. But when we ask a company to host these students, or these young people, then we give them a stipend. So if you are there for 2 months, you get a stipend for the 2 months you are working with that company from the Department of Youth Services.
Like an apprenticeship type program.
And what happens, gentlemen, because the post that we do, most of these young people become gainfully employed by these people who host them. So far we are doing good.
That's very good, and it's good that we get an update on these things. But one of the things that I see, because we're moving into another administration, they'll be calling elections and so on. But I don't see the connection where the government says, in order for us to help to reduce crime, we need to increase the budget in sports. We need to increase the budget in youth. Because maybe education was a very big portfolio, and then sports and youth were attached to a very large portfolio. So funds, you could take the funds from education and kind of attach it, like education and sports, or education and youth, and then bring that budget. In this particular term, and you became Minister of Transport. Transport is a smaller portfolio, and then youth and sports, which are already small, were attached to that very same portfolio. So I guess that's why you came up with the app to say, okay, well, let's find these other sources of funding. But if youth and sports were seen as alternatives to a life of crime or gangs, then it would be prioritized. And one of the things that I am not seeing, because we call election now, there's not a national PUP convention. Do you know if there'll be a national PUP convention? Because I think it's at the convention where certain priorities are set. So are we going to see the same priorities moving to the new administration? Or is there going to be resetting of priorities where youth and sport can be seen as solutions to crime, and then you can get an infusion of funds from the budget itself?
Well, very good point. We just had a meeting with the Ministry of Finance last week, and those same topics came up. And I believe that it was successful to increase the budget for the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Transportation. Now they recognize the importance of youth and sports. So I believe we will do much more. As a matter of fact, in maybe the third quarter in last year, the Ministry of Finance also introduced a bill that we can go to the private sector and solicit this fund, because then you can now claim it back through your business tax.
Okay.
And so we will now start to go to the private sector, because they want to contribute, but they want to know how can they claim back. Because sports, I believe, now every Belizean should participate. So that is what we are doing right now.
So I wanted to, before we go, segue a little bit into the upcoming election itself and what the next term is going to look like for you. I know it seems to me you plan to run again.
Well, this could be my last term, gentlemen, because
was supposed to, or is my?
No, this one coming.
Okay,
because you know I'm aging only for a long time, Louis.
Yes, I do.
All right, and
it seems to be happening to all of us.
And I don't have the energy, I believe, to run another election after this one. But I have a wonderful and excellent relationship with the people I represent. And while we have 10,558 going to election 2025, it is humongous. And they are cheated to a certain extent because if you compare Stanley with Mess Up, Mess Up is about 2,500. So we are almost like 4 times the size of Mess Up. And so the people of my constituency is cheated because then the resources is very limited. But because of the way how I do my work, the people see I'm trying. So when I was elected in 2020, even though I'm given 3 difficult departments, I make sure I do not last touch with my people. So going back to them now, I started my campaign 2 weeks before election announced. Because I anticipate the date and everything that election will be this date. And so I started to go there and explain to my people that together we can make it happen. And I can safely say to the gentlemen, last election I won by 2,391 votes. It's unprecedented for Stanley West because it has been almost 50-50 constituency. And I want to give Mr. Melvin Hulse, I have to give him kudos because he had a tight hold on that constituency. And when he came back in 2008, he defeated me by a fair enough margin. And then I was persistent, and so when he defeated me, I persisted in the constituency for 4 years before Mr. Barrow election. I was able to defeat Melvin, which was a powerhouse.
Yes.
All right? But when he passes away, because Melvin see me go, okay? And when he passes away, like he passed the mantle over to me. So even before the 2015 election, I said, right, well, I'll run to make a win. And 2015, I won by 8 votes.
Yes.
And so when he passed away, his supporters have no other choice but to come and support me.
Yes.
And so I can safely say that I have.
So he went across the aisle in a sense because.
Remember
or he had stepped back.
Back, you know, independent.
Yes.
All right? But they say, well, I on the left.
Okay, so yes, so his voters,
So right now, all his
endorsed.
90% of his voters come on my side.
Yes.
So I feel very, very comfortable.
You're very confident.
Very confident.
Yes. Even it looks like, I don't know, 2 for 1, the UDPs don't look very organized going into the election.
To my despair, gentlemen, the election is less than a month away now. And I don't see them, I don't hear them going into the village to say, appeal to them for the vote. And so I wonder what will be the end result at the end of the day. Because they only put up their name, but I guess there is not sufficient finance for them to sustain and go into such a large constituency. Imagine that Stancrick West, not only the largest constituency, but from the farthest point north to the farthest point south is 75 miles. That's the ground I have to cover on a regular basis. Then I go to Moreland River, to Placencia, to Independence.
We have a bigger concern than that, though, as it relates to the concern. You said that in a large constituency like yours, the opposition will not be able to maybe mount the finances that are necessary. Our question is, what effect could a very, very weakened opposition have on a very, very powerful People's United Party, in the sense that we already see, we were already fighting with the government when it comes to the Equal Opportunity Bill and marijuana. Like that was a fight that we were able to keep it at bay. There was no disrespect of the church. You know, there was no animosity, I have to say. Scott, am I correct here? There was no animosity, but on these two matters, the government wanted to go in the direction of pro-marijuana and pro-LGBTQIA. And our question is like, now that there is practically no opposition, will the PUP just be steamrolling the church as it relates to these two issues?
Well, I don't know, gentlemen. You have a very good minister representing the churches in cabinet. And so, Henry Usher.
Yes.
And so we will see what will be the end result. But I will not make much comment on that right now. But I believe that the opposition has done an injustice to the Belizean people. Because they had 4 years to get their act together to launch a very good campaign against the government. Because, well, I will give the Prime Minister kudos and the government of the People's United Party. We have bring an economy from a dungeon to what it is today. And while everything might not be bright and beautiful, then the job of the opposition is to keep government in tune. And if they can't get the act together, then it might be a 31-0. That can possibly happen. Right. Then you are no sort of wonder what will happen, because there is nobody to oppose the government. Yes. But when you get a state, you must see what will be the result.
But are you the type of minister who supports the positions that Minister Henry Usher? I mean, do you have his back in those issues that when he supports the church? That's the question, in a sense, you know.
You're putting me on the hook.
Yes, I am.
All right. And
the room is getting a little bit warmer, right?
But
can the good minister have you?
No, but Lewis, I think you know me ever since, so you know what I believe in. Yeah. So I will leave it at that. But we'll see what will happen when they come to that.
We would hope that on these issues we'll not get steamrolled. Scott,
totally. I mean, I want to encourage you. If you remember, it was not too long ago the PUP was in the situation that the UDP is in right now. Could not get things together. Lewis and I talked about, we knew what a first term looks like. We knew what a second term looks like. We had no idea what a third term looks like. And a weakened opposition can cause the self-destruction of the party.
Yeah, I understand you quite clearly, but nothing lasts forever. So while the PUP might look very strong going into 2025 election, 2030 could be different. And so there is no guarantee that there will be a third term for the PUP. We might have our own differences going along likewise. And you might see a drastic turnover and a drastic change.
Well, I want to speak in this section right here. And I think we need to wind down also, right, Lewis? Sure. But the Prime Minister mentioned it's just a couple small churches that are opposed to the Equal Opportunity Bill, and we're going to help the Prime Minister see that that is not the case, and so it's an extremely important issue, and then that's where I'm giving you Ali heads up. A weakened opposition we just finished the Creole section, could cause lone fool to start happen, where people become blinded by power. And so I'm just speaking to you as a man of wisdom of the importance for the PUP to keep their head on straight. If there's not an opposition to hold things.
As a senior minister,
yes. And I say that with all respect, because I do hold you in very high respect, right?
Like I say something, gentlemen. The Prime Minister, it is his prerogative to choose his cabinet.
Yes.
I can guarantee you guys, if I will be a part of his cabinet after election. So I prefer wait and see what will be the result.
Yes, yes,
All right?
yes.
I cannot guarantee that because he chooses his cabinet. And if 31 of us wins, then he will have so many people to choose from.
Yeah, yes, yes.
All right, so
Yes.
I'll hold it for that.
I receive.
Yeah.
I have two things before you go. One is this viewer is talking about overcrowded buses up north, and then the second person is asking specifically about Marion Jones. And I know you discussed the Mexican building, the collaboration, but is there a wider problem at the Marion Jones and upkeep? And then the next question has to do, as I said, with overcrowding in the north on the public transport.
Right. The overcrowding in the north. Never before the transport department had a planning unit, a transport planning unit. And I'm the minister responsible, but then I have different categories. And the way how our system is set up, the minister gives directive and policies, directive and support policies. The CEO is the one responsible to the day-to-day administration of the ministry. So if a transport, the chief officer, I may give an instruction, but my instruction have to go through the CEO. And I try to be very pragmatic and make sure that these things are followed. But let us be very realistic, and the north is understood. We are saying that a bus should leave half an hour behind another bus, not to cause the confusion and the competition. But while there is an overload for the 7 AM bus, for argument's sake, then the bus that leaves 7:30 may have 10 passengers. So that operator will say, why will I run with 10 passengers? It's not profitable. I'll give an example. There is a bus that leaves Dangriga, I believe, 6:45 from Dangriga to Belmopon, and bring mostly public officers. And most morning that bus is already fully seated. When you travel along the Dangriga Valley Road, you might see 10 public officers who want to come to work. But nobody will come behind and pick up 10 public officers. We have to reach Belmopon for 8 o'clock. So sometimes I'm passing that bus, and I have to stop the driver and say, please take the additional 10 public officers. So it's a very balancing act. And we are trying our best to figure out how we can control it and mitigate it. We do our best, but it's difficult.
Right. And the Marion Jones...
well, the Marion Jones and the Mexico Center is in one compound.
Yes, right, it's in one compound.
And so I'm hopeful that if we could find the funding to fix up the entire Marion Jones Stadium. So I said I engage Mexico again because they were very friendly when it comes to the entire Marion Jones Stadium, and see if they can assist us in getting it done. Because in my estimation, sports is very important for any country. And our believers are traveling, and when they come back, they are doing extremely well. They are come first, they are come second, and I want to give volleyball kudos. Because whenever they go, they are very competitive. Yes, yes. And they make sure they bring back either first, second, and third place. And the football female, they did well in the last tournament. I think they lose one game or none. And so we see that we have the potential. As a matter of fact, this year, cycling will host the entire region. So again, they are knocking on the door of the Minister of Sports. Yeah. And I have to go appeal to my cabinet that they must give a significant contribution to cycling. Then also, while with the sport, with the D-ball.
Yeah, the tennis.
No, the one where near the field. By Warren Creek.
Golf. What?
Yeah. Golf is also.
Golf as a sport.
Yeah, they
are
also hosting the region this year.
Okay.
And again, they are asking the Ministry of Sports for a contribution. I was privileged. I was lucky about a month and a half ago to play pickleball. That is one of the best sports you could ever think about. Any member of the family can play, and it's a nice sport. And we were able, there was one court in St. Bite at a resort. And then I have one George Lopez, who is a Belizean living in Virginia. He came down and introduced us to pickleball. And so once we can bring that sport to Belize, it's a very competitive sport, and Belizeans will like it.
And everybody can play.
Yeah, everybody can play.
That's very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very good. You have a lot of limes that you're having to squeeze the last drop of juice out of each one of them. And so,
Got people might criticize, but they don't know what. And any criticism, I'm not getting criticism. But I'm doing my best to make the best of a department that has been trusted to me by the Prime Minister. But sometimes the resources are limited, I can only do so much.
so we vote for an increase in your budget. Right?
Yes, sir.
Minister, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Some closing comments this morning.
Gentlemen, I said I have 26 villages and communities.
Yes.
So I started 2 weeks ago. Every night I go to a village.
Wow.
So I get home 11, 12 at night, every night. But I make sure I go to a village every single night. As you talk about the National Convention, the party is having a National Convention on Sunday.
Okay. Okay.
And so
Very good.
I guess some of those things will come up.
Yes.
And I realized that I was so popular that everybody wants to go to this convention. And so we are putting everything together to see if we can carry a significant amount of people. It will be at the Civic Center in Belize City. But I want to thank the people of Stanton Creek West for their confidence in me. I never know I might be a politician one day. I was never part of my genes or part of my idea. But one day, somebody encouraged me to run for a convention, and I ran, and I was successful. Because I try to be the normal person as I can. Not because I have a position as a minister of government, I'm still Robert Ferguson. So anybody can speak to me anywhere, anytime, and I don't see colors. So anybody who comes to me and asks me to help get something done, I don't want to say about a campaign against me. I'll do my best to help you get your stuff done. That's the way it can be above the fray. And people of Stanton West, I really appreciate it. The time of reckoning is here, and I know exactly what you are going to do at the polls come March 12, 2025. And I really appreciate all of you. Gentlemen, let me tell you something. As I said earlier, Stanton Creek West is the most diverse constituency. We have big pockets of Hispanic, big pockets of Maya, Garifuna, Creole, some East Indian to a certain extent, and Chinese. But I'm able to maneuver amongst all of them because I treat everybody equally. 85% is Hispanic and Maya. I shall never win Stanton Creek West if they were prejudiced. So I don't believe in discrimination.
Very good. Very good. Well,
You're closing.
I want to give you kudos, and I want to say thank you for your leadership. I know you have a number of portfolios that, like I said, they're limes. You have to squeeze the last drop out of that, right? But Dr. John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on the shoulders of leadership. And we need strong leadership. I want to say we need moral leadership in the nation of Belize as well, to be able to look at moral values, because when you start to diss those areas, you're shooting yourself in the foot for the future of the nation. So those are my final words.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to hear that there is a national convention coming up on Sunday, because the people set the tone, for the direction that the government is going to go. And I will be looking forward to hear what as I know a part of it, the PUP is saying that it will be like a continuation of the Plan Belize.
Yeah.
There's this is a 10-year plan and not a 5-year plan. I think it's very good. I got to say, I am very excited about the negotiations that the Prime Minister concluded with Mexico, as well as it relates to Tren Maya.
Exactly.
I believe it is going to radically transform the nation of Belize, and connect like tourism, agriculture, just the entire economic activity. And so we look forward to that. We look forward to having you again. One night per village, that's a lot. That gives us an idea of how large a constituency is, and continued need for redistricting, because you take the biggest lick. You take, that is hands down. And so we trust that as we enter into the election cycle, we can have more conversations on this. So thanks for launching our own elections conversation. And it's a pleasure having you with us again. Belize, God bless you. We're gone for today. See you tomorrow.
Sweet Belize, land of the sand and sea, land of the coconut tree. I love me sweet Belize. Sweet Belize, land of the islands and keys, land of the barrier reef. I love me sweet Belize. If I ever had to leave Belize,